morning, ladies and gentlemen. This week, as you've noticed, is something different. Once again, due to family circumstances, I've been unable to go up to the yard. However, I do have a plan. So once payday comes around and I've got a little bit more funds, I'm going to go up to the bus, I'm going to collect the seats, well, the legs, and all the bits I need to do the legs, and then do them basically. But I'm going to do them at home where I can keep charging the grinder up and just keep at it at home, which will be much easier, much quicker. This will obviously prepare the legs to go in, which is what we want. So that's where that plan is, which is why you've got this sort of video. And I know you can't see much, it's dark, I know. So just use this opportunity as a video where you can just listen to the audio and carry on doing whatever else you're doing whilst having a listen. So, bus wise, no, nothing much has changed. Apart from having a few cash flow issues at the moment, because obviously I don't want to touch any money that we've been given just yet. And those that don't know, we had a fuel card for All-Star and they've put the fees up and they've hit us with fees because we're not using it. And my mistake, me being me, so I will sort it. Didn't read the invoice, thought there was enough money in the account, there weren't, so All-Star hit us with £95 for a bounced direct debit. So that has now been cancelled. We have been looking at stalls at places and putting all that into place. So we should be around some events for stalls at least. Just obviously not sure which yet. Someone's boot there completely open. Still working on that. I'm working on what we actually have to sell. So if you have any models, any memorabilia, collectibles, transport related that you don't want, that you wish to donate, please get in touch and that will help out a lot. So if you want to declutter your collectibles, then we are interested. But that's about it really from the bus fund. Revenue's down. It's just gone an absolute shite start of the year. But hey ho, that's the way it is. So one of the main real reasons for this video, Manchester's B network now has fully been rolled out, and MEN's done quite a bit on it, and that is the Magic Bus. After many years of the Magic Bus, it has now come to an end. Magic Bus was run by Stagecoach as it wasn't just as a branding, it was as a sub sort of company thing, as a trade name, is the right words. So it was run as a trade name as Stagecoach. That was the Magic Bus. Started off life with their blue Wizards, with their blue, dark blue livery. With when I started back in 2017, 2018, not too long ago now, but long enough obviously. Fares were £1. Pound fares were great. Nice and easy. Students just used to throw pound coins at you. And you just used to, when it was really busy, guess what was in the tray. Because by the time you'd finish loading, you'd have a tower of pound coins. And no real idea of how many people actually got on the bus. And already people said, oh, it's just a bus, it's just been painted. But if you actually think about it, the Magic Bus has been an icon for years in Manchester. It's not just a branded bus route, it's an icon. It was set up as a cheap solution for students, which also found a lot of hospital workers using it down Winslow Road to get there. It was £1, as I say, in 2018 when I started, and for the £1 you could get all the way from Manchester Piccadilly to either West or East Didsbury. Very far. It was a case of 42s, 43s, they were normal fares along Winslow Road. So you'd have a lot of students getting on the Magic Buses because they didn't want to pay the full fare of the normal service buses. Now, Magic Buses also started out with the attitude of the older vehicles, basically. You got the sheds. You got the sheds of the sheds, because they expected the vehicles to be trashed. You know, on a night out with students, they just expected them to be absolutely trashed. That's why I send out nice buses. We also had, back in the day, in the morning, they would do extras, floating services, which weren't on the timetable from Owens Park. They worked by, the inspector would stand at Owens Park, he would know what buses he has round there, parked round the corner. So when there was a gap in the service, or the bus stop became busy, you'd be on the radio, you'd dial your number, your radio would go, and you'd have 19166, come round please. 19166, come round. And you'd go round and he'd be there and he'd help you load up. This was back in the day of paper tickets. And when it was paper tickets, you'd have a guy also selling Magic Riders. I think they were £7 for the week, £1 a day, something like that. And he'd sell the Magic Riders, so you could essentially just load up. So the students would be doing the pounds to you, the inspector would be checking weekly tickets and that, and then he'd go, right, you've had 30 weekly tickets to you, and you just put them in the machine. Off you go, driver. And on the floating services, you just go for it all the way to town. No timetable, you just went for it. You get to town, empty out, not in service, run back to Owens Park. Until the last time on your running board, and then you'd be done. Because for a service to operate in a domestic house, you needed a running board. You didn't always follow the running board, but you had it. Then, as time went on, they got rid of the Tridents, the Dragons, all them disappeared. They were before my time, not much before my time, but they were before my time. Hence why I've got pictures of them. They were back I started, we had the 19.1s and 19.2s on it. That's 19.100s, 19.200s. Magic buses were also operated by 2 depots for the demand of them, because it was a lot. I realise I'm still doing 50. So they was operated by 2 depots. There was downsides to the Magic buses, which was, say, a 256 that's tendered was failing, so not operating because the bus broke down or the driver's running late or whatever. The Magic buses would be pulled because it was such a frequent service. It was always just pulled, and it was a cheap service, so to speak. So the regular services would benefit by the Magic buses dropping. The problem with that was, when there was 2 depots doing it, you could end up with quite a gap in the service. However, that's where the wonderful inspectors actually came into their own. You'd see them stood in Piccadilly Gardens. They didn't really monitor the other services too much, apart from in peak, when it was like attended services and bus stops were getting busy. Then they'd look at the other services and try and sort it out. They would often pull services in the town centre that are Magic buses, so you'd be going in as a Magic bus with 142 on, and you'd be flagged down by an inspector at another bus stop. You'd pull up and they'd go, "Can you operate the 1730-256, trip number 42, leaves here at 16 whatever," you say. Yeah. And you just hope the ticket machine would actually follow you. But they'd pull you for that. But they'd also ensure that, then say, I've operated the R5 256 on a Magic bus. If the R5 256 actually came in, he'd pull that to move that into doing Magic bus services, because he's already covered the 256. So they were very good at juggling the services to maintain service. As time went on, the buses became pretty standard, really, among the fleet. So as the 19.1s got faded out slowly, in came the hybrid electrics, which was swapped into Magic bus livery. However, Magic bus livery with a change. We lost the dark blue Magic bus Wizard, Dara O'Brien on the back of them. That was all lost to this, I call it a revolting stars, basically. It was a more up to be, more stagecoach look livery. That's seen the students get an upgrade of the hybrids. Not before the price went up though. And the price went up to £1.50, and that cost outrage at the time, because it was like a 50% increase on the price. And you just left there thinking, well, what did the students expect? They've had a service that's been £1 for years, hasn't gone up. It's £1. You know, it's gone up by 50p. This might meanwhile, why other services were charging like nearly £3 on the same route to get to places. So they weren't exactly hard done by. And they got on with it eventually. Then what they really didn't like was when the night fare kicked in, because that was £2.50 for the night fare. And what was really annoying was there was a 143 that we used to operate at Hyde Road that left Piccadilly Gardens at 5 past midnight. So at 5 past midnight, the fares would have kicked in. So we always used to have to get on stand just before we were due to depart, because if you got on stand at a minute past midnight or a minute to midnight, you still had normal fares on, because the ticket machine would update it automatically. As a fare rule, so you could have people on that's paid $1.50 and people that are paid $2.50 on. So we used to always just get on just before we were due to depart. The nightlife on the Magic buses was something else, whereas the 43 was people going on holiday, workers going to the airport. Quite a chilled experience. Going to and from Manchester on a Magic bus was something else. There was some magic on them, and typically after or before they'd even got to the nightclub, the party had already started or was still continuing. A few times I've pulled up to Piccadilly with the floor being banged, them dancing around upstairs, and you think any minute now you're going to have a pair of legs through the floor. You can hear them singing, and you can see them on the camera messing about. I've even found a pair of underpants. I don't know how I got a pair of underpants, but I got a pair of underpants. Someone for that night were going commando. And that's what you had. You didn't have smoking, you just had partying. Unfortunately, sometimes the partying went a little bit too far, and there's been a few times fights have had to be broken up. I say broken up, I used to just let them get on with it, you know, because there were students that were pissed. They threw a punch, pushed each other, they got off the bus. That was the end of it, and it was quite funny half the time. Along with some of the students were quite funny. And as a bus driver, when I was single back in the day, the sights were brilliant. There were also the sort of people that customer service, I don't want to say didn't matter, but you could get away with saying a lot more to them, and a lot of them took it as a joke, which was good. Some of them didn't, but the majority of them took it as a joke, and you could have a good laugh with them. I've done it plenty of times when they've got on and go, "Is this the 142?" And you go, "What was the last time I checked?" Or they used to get on, "Do you know, used to do like the 147 or the what would have been the 141?" And they would go, "Do you know how long the 142 is gonna be?" And you'd be like, "About 38 feet." And some of them would see the funny side to it, others wouldn't. But you really could get away with a lot more. Like, even on my last night when I worked for them, I worked a night shift for them, and I can't remember what was going on, but something was going on, and I just turned around to this student. Oh, they were moaning about the £2.50 fare, and they wanted a refund, and they're trying to appeal to the rest of the bus. And I just turned round to this student, and I went, "What is it with people leaving the boots open?" And I just went to this student and went, "Look, I don't give a fuck. Get off the fucking bus now." I said, I finished at midnight. I really don't give a flying toss. It was £2.50. Your choice to use it to get 3 bus stops. Now get off." And the student just looked at me, and I had 2 girls getting on behind him, and they looked at me like, you know, shot face. And he finished appealing. After shouting at this guy, I just turned around to them and went, "Yes, how can I help?" With the straightest of faces, and they found it funny because I went from this, telling this guy just to get the fuck off my bus. I didn't give a flying toss to £1.50 or what, £2.50, and they found it quite funny. But if it was a normal white service, so a normal service, you couldn't have got away with that. Just point blank, couldn't have got away with it. But like I say, you could have a laugh with the students on the magic buses. But as I say, people are saying, "Oh, it's just a bus livery that's gone." It's not. It's more than that. It is that icon of Manchester. Other places have icons. We had the magic bus pounding up and down Wimslow Road, and in the peak, it really didn't matter how many of those they put on. They were rammed. And reading the comments on some of the news articles that MEN had done, you think, what did you expect? There was one that went, "I never used them, they were always full of the uni students and the MRI hospital workers." Well, no shit, Sherlock. If they can get on a bus that's £1 or £1.50 versus one that's going to be £3 or £2, wouldn't you? You just had to deal with it. There were busy services. But like I say, the nights were the best, because you knew where the inspectors were, you knew there was only on the inbound. So when you loaded up in Piccadilly and the doors were just swamped with people, and you'd have people just throwing the money at you, and you just end up with this mound of coins. Same during the day pretty much, when it was back in the days when it was £1. And you'd look at your tray like, yeah, I think there's about 20 fares there. You'd put through 20 fares, you'd scoop it up, put it in your tray, you'd get back cash up, and you'd be like, "I'm 30 quid over here. That's in my pocket." Used to be known the one for me, one for you route. If you got caught by an inspector, you was in trouble, but you know, I finished this